Cenk Karatas is a Washington-based analyst on Turkish political affairs. He's also a fellow at the Global Policy Institute. First, I want to get your overall assessment of what's been taking place. We're past day 2 now. What's happening and what you foresee to come in the next day or so?
What is happening is war is happening. Now, there has been this incursion into the Syrian territory where the so-called terrorist organization control has been going on. Turkey is trying to implement its version of the peace corridor that has been contested by almost every foreign power.
We have the Europeans reacting. We know that it's getting a lot of backlash here in Washington. The U.S. president a short time ago basically gave 3 options to deal with what is happening at the moment. First option, he said, send in more troops. 2, hit Turkey financially. And 3, mediate a deal between Turkey and the Kurds.
Now, how I read this is probably the president does not know what to say at this point of time. It's an overly complicated issue. If we look at it from a different angle, we're going to see a completely different story. This is a crisis in the making for the last several years. This is not something from Sunday to Monday. I mean, there was a sudden change in the plans after the phone conversation between President Trump and President Erdogan, but this has been prevented so long before.
So was it likely to happen at some point, whether it was him or someone else making a decisive move here?
The thing is, the United States has decided to partner with the YPG, a terrorist organization regarded by the Turkish government, which is a NATO ally. So in this sense, the Americans decided to partner with a terrorist organization instead of a NATO ally. So this was a crisis in the making again. So what we have on our plate right now has been cooking for some time. I believe this could be prevented, it could have been prevented by some cooperation and active diplomacy. Instead, unilateral actions and some misinformation, and also some things that were not planned. I mean, when you run the policy making through Twitter, then you are doomed to have these kind of complications.
Is there a way to correct or make what is happening better? I mean, what can be done at this point?
Now, what we have on our hand is not controllable in the very short term. We only hope that the Turkish government is going to keep this operation in a restraint and implement the measures to take care of the local population. Now, that's been promised by the Turkish government and international community, including the remarks by the NATO today, also expects that from them.
Now, there is this concern. We have tens of thousands fleeing the region, so there is the concern of a humanitarian crisis. What is happening there? You said the Turks are promising something, but what does Syria do? What does Iran do at this point?
The war in Syria is a humanitarian crisis by itself. I don't know the number of times that I discussed this as a humanitarian crisis. And to be honest with you, Turkey is probably the neighboring country to Syria that was hurt from this the most. It's hosting about 4 million refugees, and they are becoming a problem for in terms of domestic politics for President Erdogan. So this has to be solved in a sense. The problem with the today's humanitarian crisis, that thousands of people trying to flee, is that they don't know where is safe right now. I was at the border as a journalist myself back in the day, and we could observe people knowing where to go. Now the problem is nobody knows anything. Even we cannot predict it. When you have unpredictable remarks from the leaders on a daily basis, then it becomes impossible for people on the ground to know what to do.
We are out of time, but yes or no, is the concern about ISIS a legitimate one?
It is a legitimate one, but it can be contained at the same time, and it requires active diplomacy and cooperation even after the operation is started.
Cenk Karatas, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.